Welcome back to the 12th Man podcast. Of course, Owen's with us for a pre-season podcast. I know we haven't been doing that many, but we want to keep them good. So that's why we're only doing one a week at the moment. And I have to say, we did promise you there would be news when we did our last podcast 9 days ago, and so many of you watched that. So have particularly good views on that. So thanks very much for that. And of course, thanks to Owen as well for his input. Owen, 9 days or so have passed. And really, over the last 24 hours, now things are starting to really kick into gear. Pre-season tours are coming to an end, and we're seeing plenty of movement. We're seeing big money moves being linked as well. We're going to be looking at all those transfers that are being rumoured, as well as the ones that have been done recently. The Premier League is only 9 days away. This time, 9 days from now, will be kicking off against Fulham in the opener. The Community Shield, of course, kicks off this weekend. The traditional curtain raiser to the season. So, as I said, we'll be talking transfer news. We'll be looking as well at the final pre-season results, where Liverpool enjoyed plenty of success against their rivals in red, as Chelsea's miserable pre-season tour ended with another defeat. We'll be looking at Spurs' young guns. Although impressive, do they need more? Injuries and United being very wide open again. Has anything really changed there? We'll look at Man City and Arsenal as they seem to finish their pre-season in style. And me and Owen are also going to give our
Arsenal are currently beating Bayer Leverkusen 4-0.
They beat them 4-1. It just finished there. So it says Arsenal, Man City really kicking on the gear. And of course, me and Owen will try and give these our honest predictions. Our champions are top four, bottom three, overperformers, underperformers, and our first manager sacked. We will do our 1-20 for the Premier League table on next week's show, as well as giving our weekend one predictions. So Owen, plenty to talk about. Comments are coming on already. Final countdown. Premier League's back on before we get into the transfers. How excited are you? 9 days from now, we'll be seeing the first game.
I need something to occupy me at the minute. We'll talk about that at a different time. But I need something as a distraction at the minute. But I'm looking forward to it.
Kieran, thanks for tuning in. Of course, we're going to be talking a lot about Liverpool because they are the main team in the news today, and Callum's already linked on Zubimendi. And he is going to be our first point of call. Kieran's getting on early with his top three. He's not sure about fourth.
I'm not sure about his first, to be honest.
I seem to remember a similar prediction last year. Owen, let's look at the big transfer news because, of course, results at the moment aren't really seen as important, although they are interesting. In pre-season, you don't get any points for, as Ange Postecoglou said this week. He's not really interested in results until the league starts. And I'm sure a lot of managers are the same, but performances are looked at by fans. So we will come on to that, but let's look at the transfer window. Breaking news today, that Liverpool, and they've been very quiet in this window so far on, but they are exploring a deal for Zubimendi. Now, Liverpool fans getting excited. Some fans being patient, some fans getting overexcited. David Ornstein says that many teams have tried with Zubimendi in the last 6 months to get him. It's not going to be easy. But in the last hour, we're hearing from Lewis Steele, from the Liverpool Echo, that Liverpool are growing in confidence in getting this deal done. So, Owen, where are you at with it? Because, it would be a big coup because Barcelona, Man United, Arsenal, Bayern Munich have all had an interest, and for maybe different reasons, have all decided not to pursue a deal. And I suppose that tells you everything because there is a set price there. It's a release clause, so it's nothing to do with negotiating. Maybe he doesn't fancy a move to there, but his agent does have a relationship with Richard Hughes, of course, Liverpool's director.
And Alonso, I think, as well.
Well, he did have a relationship, and that didn't work out. But we're hearing that Zubimendi also is a big fan of Alonso, and that's why maybe Real Madrid is someone in the back of his head because of Alonso next year.
He can go to Liverpool first and then go to Madrid. What Alonso did.
He can do what Alonso did. But of course, that is a rumor next season. So, where are you at with Zubimendi?
I'm not going to sit here and say I've watched a lot of him, but obviously now that he's been linked, I've watched a few videos today, and I seen him at the Euros, and he's not a traditional number 6, as you say. He can sort of play as an 8, as a 6, and I think that's what Slot wants. He doesn't fancy Endo at all. You seen him pre-season, like Endo's not his type of player, and I think Endo will struggle in slot system. So if we can get this deal over the line, like I'll be very impressed. But I think if we get this deal over the line, I think a few more moves will happen for us in terms of outgoing.
Yeah, anybody watching there, feel free to stick in your opinion, Liverpool fans, on this Zubimendi deal. Do you think, are you confident Liverpool will get this done? Of
Well,
course, Owen.
a lot of Man United fans wanted him this summer as their number six, but they seem to be going after Bird from Sheffield United, which is
Yeah, we'll come on to that because there's obviously the link with Ugarte, but we'll come on to that as well. And you know, this would be, a huge coup. But before we do, I mean, we were here 12 months ago when Liverpool were looking at Casado, and that didn't work out. He went to
don't do it to
Chelsea,
me.
and
Don't
that
do it
was
to me.
kind of in the news. Are you confident this time with Edwards and with Hughes, it's going to be different? Because I spoke to Callum today, and Callum thinks that the fact this is on the news now, Liverpool are very confident this deal
I,
will get done. So, do you think there's been a lot of background and due diligence put into this, and that Liverpool wouldn't be in the news if Liverpool didn't feel they could get it done?
Oh, Edwards and Ward and whoever else is there. There's a lot of people there now that they like to do their business on the down low. And obviously, I've been a very big critic this summer of saying, "Well, what the hell are we doing?" But obviously, we've been doing stuff in the background, and it seems to be he's the you. It was actually you said to me yesterday when it broke that Liverpool were going to sign at the end that he was the preferred target. So I don't know who your sources are, but gives a few of their numbers. But
Something I heard was something I heard in the background. But look,
uh,
um,
he seems to be the boy we want, and hopefully we can get it over the line.
obviously we didn't see a lot of him with the Euros because Rodri played in that position.
Uh,
But he's got a reputation, and if Bayern Munich, Barcelona, United, Arsenal, Liverpool, and possibly even Real Madrid are possibly waiting for him to come on next year after the likes of Modric and Cruz depart. Cruz, of course, retired there, didn't he? Or is he staying on
yeah.
for an hour? Yeah, he retired.
No,
So
he's retired. Modric stayed on.
Modric stayed on, so there will be an opening there with Madrid next year. And of course, the rumor is that Alonso will replace Ancelotti, but things can change very quickly in football. If Leverkusen were to fall apart this year, all of a sudden Alonso doesn't look the attractive manager he is now. So, do you think is that something that Zubimendi will be thinking about, that it would be unwise to wait for Real Madrid and a big club like Liverpool's on free now? And maybe the fact that, I was thinking today about Arsenal, but, we Declan Rice there, Partey, Jorginho, quite a lot of competition there for
It was,
places.
I
Whereas at
was just going
Liverpool,
to
he's
come on
probably
that.
guaranteed to start, doesn't he?
I was just going to come on that. There's more competition at Arsenal, even United. I don't know about Barcelona. I'm not very clear up on their squad, to be honest. But Arsenal especially, he's not going to get in. He's not going to get in over Rice, and he could get in over Jorginho, Thomas Partey. But at Liverpool, like his main competition is Endo and Tyler Morton, which is two players that won't be here come the start of the season by all accounts. So it will be interesting though if we get him. Will we go on for another number six as a backup, or will we just use like Gravenberch or something? So I'm interested to see because, as I said at the top of the show, there Slot just doesn't seem to fancy Endo, and I liked him last season, but when you watch him in this system, he's just not going to be the player for us. But having a midfield of McAllister, Szoboszlai, and Zubimendi, does get the old heart going now. I do like a look at.
Kieran saying patience, lads. The club has sorted Arnie. Need to wait before he need to see what he has before anything happens in the way of transfers. Do you think is that something that, although there's not been a lot of talk, there's been a lot of work in the background, getting things ready. And then now that we've, we're first thing we've heard is Endo is not going to be part of the squad. Well, Liverpool can get him out the doors and our thing, but apparently he's not even considered as an option. So obviously with that being the case, this target now plays in the same position. So does it now start to look like it's making sense?
I obviously a few weeks ago I was very critical because I have no patience. It's not even a patience thing. It was when you saw our teams, like especially United, when they were getting deals over the line. But you see now their fans aren't happy with some of their transfer decisions. So you have to sometimes you have to hold my hands up here. FSG sort of knew what they were doing. Well, to be honest, it's not really FSG. They don't really run the club anymore. It's Hughes and Edwards who run the football inside. So patience has sort of paid off now. Well, or we get this deal over the line. I suspect we'll know more in the next 48 hours, I would say. But
Do
I'm
you expect
90%
this to move
sure.
pretty quickly?
I think I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to say by what day is it today? Wednesday. I'm going to say by Friday, Saturday, Whaler get he's coming or he's decided to stay. I think it'll be one done quickly. But as you said, Liverpool wouldn't put it out there if they didn't get confidence from the player that he wants to come in. So I'm confident we'll get this
I
sorted.
did mention to you a few weeks ago that certain players wouldn't be available to a certain date, and I mean Zubimendi would only be due back at Liverpool this week if he was
Yeah,
signed 2 months ago because he went all the way to Spain. Yes, he didn't play that much, but he was still part of the squad, so he
yep.
would have been entitled to that break. He would have only been back in training on Monday this week. So again, maybe Liverpool have saved 2 months of wages here by delaying this. The price isn't going to change. We know the release clause is 60 million euros, roughly translate to about 51 million pounds. So if he's as good as what he's been rumored to be, 50 million or so seems like a decent fee for a player could be has potential.
I mean, like I know it's sort of Premier League proven, but you have Onana going for the same price. They Aston Villa, and I don't rate him that highly. And I'm not going to say I rate Superman one way or the other because I haven't seen much of him play. But he's going to be the best DM world football now if he comes. But
I
no,
can tell. I can tell.
I'm excited. I'm excited about this deal because if we get it done, because we've been looking for a DM for even when Fabinho was here, and Endo, as much as I said there that impressed me much last season, but he's 31 and Zubimendi's 25, so you could get a good 6 years out of Zubimendi maybe and ship him off to Real Madrid if he wants. Then at the end, go get someone else.
Liverpool fans, we will be coming back to talk about Liverpool very shortly. We're just going to round up the rest of these transfer deals and talk about some of them. Of course, the big news earlier this week, on Monday, Tuesday there, before today, probably the biggest move of the summer so far, definitely in terms of fee. Atletico Madrid agreed an 82 million, so 95 million euros fee with Julian Alvarez, which roughly translates to 82 million pounds sterling. Owen, Alvarez from the early get-go this summer, it was quite clear that he was going to be available for the right price. Atletico Madrid, we've seen in the past, are no strangers to throwing big money at somebody they believe in. We've seen the likes of João Felix with Griezmann. They have went big on players before.
And it hasn't worked out, really.
And it hasn't worked out. But on this one, I mean, a lot of Spurs fans, Arsenal fans I've seen were thinking this Alvarez could be a great player for another Premier League team and that they would take him. But I wonder if this is the fee that Man City wanted, how much do you believe Atletico Madrid are overpaying? Do you see Julian Alvarez on this price category that he's been given here?
I mean, I know you're talking about a player who could retire tomorrow and had a career better than most footballers, but he hasn't really contributed much to a lot of it, if you know what I mean, from a starting point of view. But I do think he is a talented player. But
I mean,
then,
we're only a few million euros here off 100 million euros. So I mean, this is Gareth Bale, Harry
he's not
Kane.
he's not
This is
he's not
huge
that
amounts of
level,
money.
but you seen Man United fans going, "Oh, her Man City getting this money for Alvarez," and they forget they paid 72 million for Hoyland last summer, and Alvarez is a step above him. So as much as I'm a critic of Man City, you have to give it them. They can sell their players well. They only paid what 13, 14 million from River Plate when he first came on, and they're making a lot of profit off him. So fair play to them,
Set,
but.
they're set to get 68 million sterling profit off this in 2 years.
Now, it's
Which is incredible.
interesting. It's interesting now who will they. It'll be hard for them to get a striker though because you're going to come on to be
Well,
second
one
choice.
of their targets was Danny Elmo, and we're hearing he's going to Barcelona for
Yeah.
62 million euros. So, I mean,
Where are
you
they
could
getting the money?
imagine Man City are going to strengthen, but is it a worry, the Liverpool and Arsenal fans, because they're probably looking at as their two main rivals by many, not just their own fans, by the rest of the league? Is it a worry that City have shipped Alvarez out for 82 million? They got 25 million off Dortmund. They got 20 million off Southampton, and they've only really brought on one player for 30 million euros. And there's money there to be spent. Is it a worry that they could go and really sign a top world class player, and it just becomes even more someone better than Alvarez that maybe not a second striker where he was, like he played off the wing at times, but he deputized for Holland maybe in certain games in the Champions League when they were massive favourites. But almost if they were to sign a out and out left winger or right winger that can notch 20 goals a season. Does that make him even more dangerous to the rest of the league?
Doesn't really bother me that much because Man City are going to be up there anyway, regardless of who their players are. So it doesn't really worry me because they do that. They've done that in previous years. They sold Jesus, they sold Zinchenko. Like this one really stinks of like if they had kept Cole Palmer last summer, he could. I think this would have been his summer. He step on now, but obviously he made the move to Chelsea, and we'll talk about them because I have a few words on them as I did last summer. But as for this one, I think it's an exciting move for Atletico Madrid. Like, um, I think he'll do well with Simeone because Simeone's that type Argentinian as well, so he has that win, and then he can link up with Griezmann still there. They've actually signed a player from Sociedad as well, the centre back Lenormand. He's came in.
Let's stick with Atletico Madrid because they've also agreed a 38 million fee for Conor Gallagher from Chelsea. So Atletico spent quite a bit of money in this one, though. I mean, Conor Gallagher was linked with Spurs for a long time, Villa at times as well. There seemed to be a reluctance for Spurs and Aston Villa to go anywhere near the 40 million that Chelsea were demanding because he was in the last year of his contract. So, I mean, do you think this is a good move for Conor Gallagher?
I think fair play to him. He's been told that he wasn't going to be on Chelsea's plans, which I think is stupid because as much as I don't think he's a top player, he's a decent player. He was probably Chelsea's best player last season, besides Cole Palmer. And I think a lot of Chelsea fans are disappointed with him moving on. Now I think there would have been uproar if he had moved to I think if he had moved to Spurs, there would have been people wanting to burn Stamford Bridge to the ground. Like, but it's again with Chelsea, and then they're bringing in. They have about 16 goalkeepers.
Well, they're bringing in a player from Atletico Madrid for roughly the same price, 35 million.
Yeah,
I've never heard of him.
No,
never heard of him. And
it was all known. It was all known at some team last season from Atletico Madrid. So I don't know where Atletico's getting this money from, but they're doing well.
Could they be a threat next year in the Champions League with this kind of squad that they're building?
They always are, really, aren't they? They always seem to get the last 16 semi-finals, sort of. And the Champions, I don't know what they might go Champions League this year because of we don't know how it's going to work with this new format. Well, we do know, but we don't know exactly what teams are going to be playing who. So when that draw's made, I'll make my judgments on the Champions League. But Atletico's always a team I have my eye on. Like I sort of prefer them to Real Madrid and Barca in a way because it's just like the underdog thing. So Atletico are a team that I like to watch now and again.
Yeah. More news in the last 24 to 48 hours. Spurs fans have been crying out for a striker. And the striker that's been heavily punted to be at Spurs is Dominic Solanke. And Owen, I have to say, you didn't mention this on the previous podcast before any real links were made. So whilst a lot of Spurs fans are surprised, you might not be so surprised. I'm going to get your thoughts on it first, but do you just think Solanke, was there something in your head that he suited Spurs and the way they're going to play, or, what made you think that Spurs would come to him?
I just didn't think Spurs would go for Ivan Toney, to be honest. I know that's the one you were thinking of, but I don't know what's happening with him, but nobody seems to want to go on for him because he has a year left in his contract. So I just thought then Solanke was the next option. Spurs seem to be wanting like a lot of British in their team at the minute. I know you're saying Neto there as well and Eze, but
we'll talk about them too. But we'll stick with
I just thought there's not that many top quality strikers out there, and he had a great season for Bournemouth last year, and I have Spurs get this over the line for 40-50 million as the fee, I think.
Well, he's got a £65 million release clause. The Spurs are confident they can get this done for somewhere between 50 to 55.
Also, Liverpool have a 20% sell-on clause, so cheers for that.
So Liverpool set they pocket at least 10 million or so of this. Could be slightly more depending on that fee. Do you think Solanke could be a good fit for Spurs? He did score 19 Premier League goals last year, 21 in all competitions. He scored the most headers in the league. He scored the most non-penalty goals as well from the rest of the league. He's very much a pressing forward, which Ange wants. Despite not being like the most glamorous name, but could quietly he be an option for? Do you think he could do well on that Spurs team?
It's a weird one because he's been at top clubs before. I know he's a different player now, and it hasn't really worked out. And Spurs, obviously their ambitions this season is I would say, I don't know, win a trophy and get top four. I would say would be the main aim
So
because they're
you're
not
buying
going.
on. I would say you're
Uh,
buying on there, yeah.
like they're not going to win the league like unless it's a miracle thing. But I do think it'll be a decent signing. But it's one that I thought would happen. But at the start of the one though, I wouldn't predicted Solanke in a Spurs shirt. But when Spurs were looking for a striker, he came to the forefront of my mind. But I think I would say it'll be decent enough for Spurs.
And long-term targets, Beretiese and Pedro Neto
Oh,
also heavily linked.
these are going for Crocs, aren't these?
Well, that's it. And we're hearing that Spurs will pursue one of these. They're interested in both, but only one will come in. I mean,
Who would you prefer?
Spurs fans are completely divided on this because I think Eze is a bit more. He can play different positions, but I think Neto's probably what Spurs need more. Both of them have injury concerns, but either one of them, I think, would make a strong statement because
Yeah.
you look at the both of those players, and I think any team in the league would take any one of them too.
Liverpool were
So I
linked with
mean,
him for a long time. We were linked with Neto for a long time.
so any one of them two would definitely be an upgrade on what Spurs have, and definitely get the fans excited. I mean, if Solanke comes in and one of those two, would you say that's a decent window for Spurs?
You would have to, and it looks like they're going to ship out what do you call him? Richarlison to Saudi Arabia.
Well, that is
So
the next. That is the next topic that
that's another
I
one.
wonder if the Richarlison thing is anything to do with the Solanke thing, because we're hearing that Saudi Arabia, Al Hilal, are prepared to pay £60 million for Richarlison. So that technically funds the Solanke move, and it also
Um,
leaves them the money to sign one of Eze or Neto. Now,
yeah.
Spurs have been quite busy in getting players out. Emerson Royal on the verge of an €18 million move to AC
Elise
Milan.
is Elise is going as well, isn't he? The striker boy. I think he's leaving.
Release went today on loan. Brian Hill left last week. Region as being linked with Fenerbahce. So they're getting rid of a lot of the dead wood. Now, I don't think
And
they're going to
Belly
panic
left
because
as well.
that's it. Loads of our players that we talked about have left as well. I don't think they're going to panic and just go and sign players for the sake of it. But if they were to bring in the likes of Solanke, Eze, or Neto, and possibly even one more on top of that, if they were to get Richarlison out as well,
And you have
I
signed
think that
that.
would be a huge window for Spurs.
That'd be good. Very good one though for Spurs. And you have signed that young boy. I can't pronounce his name. He's Swedish. I can't pronounce his name.
Lucas
Bergvall,
Bergvall
Bergenville or something. Now. He looks
looks
a
very,
talent.
very good.
He looks a talent. I've seen a few bits and pieces of him in Spurs' preseason. I watch a lot of preseason just to see what teams are
Well,
at.
hey, Barcelona really wanted this kid, so I mean,
Yeah,
he looks very
and
tidy. He almost reminds me of a Barcelona player the way he plays.
yeah, and then you have the young kid as well, Mikey Moore. He looks to be a talent. So
Well,
there's a
Mikey
lot of
Moore's only signed a new contract this week on Sunday when he turns 17 on a 3-year deal. He's going to be the highest paid 17-year-old in the club's history. Now, I think this is one for the future. I think
You
Archie
think he
Gray
bought
has come
him?
on. Well, I think he'll stay put for now, but I think
Yeah,
it'll be more to gain experience than actually playing games. But who
yeah.
knows? Injuries, he might get a chance. But I think Gray has come on to be part of the first team. But I have to say, I want to agree with you. Bergvall has been the most impressive on this turn. I've even heard some fans, believe it or not, say they would rather Bergvall in the team than Madison. So
I don't know
that's
about
going to
that.
be a big call for Ange. I mean,
As
Bergvall.
he a winger or is he a midfield?
He plays. He's like a number 8, Bergvall.
He's like
But a lot of young players, it'll be interesting to see what happens, and we'll talk about Spurs a wee bit later on when we get into the preseason. Man United, next one. Ugarte's been heavily linked, but we heard today that United have now decided to pursue all their targets. Ugarte isn't completely off the table, but they're looking elsewhere as they're refusing to pay the €60 million asking price for Ugarte. There's been a number of players linked, but the player that's emerging in the last while is Sander Berg from Burnley. What's your thoughts on that?
It's just a panic. I think. I don't think he's a. I don't think he's a great player. He's been in the Premier League a couple of times, and both times he's got relegated. So I know it's not solely his fault, but I'm going to put my Liverpool hat on here. If United were getting Zubimendi and we were getting Burge, I would be a very angry man. I'll say that way. I wouldn't be happy. But they're also linked with a boy from Monaco called Fofana. I don't know how advanced that is, but they're obviously looking at the six as well as a lot of teams are
He's
because
Belgium, isn't he?
no, he's French, Fofana, he's French.
You're French.
But obviously I watched the Liverpool United game in pre-season, and Fabio Carvalho sent Casemiro back to Brazil. A few that boy's just lost it all. Like his legs are completely gone, and they can't seem to ship what do you call him, McTominay. He doesn't seem to be moving. Maguire staying put. Euros out for 3 months, so I'm pretty glad we didn't go for him now.
Well, we'll come
Um,
on to talk about their
so
pre-seasons slightly more, but how important do you think it is for United to get a proper number six in this window?
it's very important. They can't rely on Manu again. As much as he's a talent, he's a great footballer, but he's still what is he,
They
19,
need
20?
somebody.
Even that.
I agree. They need somebody in there beside him.
And I know Fernandez can play there, but it's not really his position. Ericsson again, he's similar to Casemiro, he doesn't have the legs to play in there.
Missed the
And
Mount's
then
unreliable with injuries. I think same old
and
story
then
there.
is Amrabat still there? Or is he shipped them?
Don't think so.
So either
But again, I think a lot of work for United to do before the 30th of August.
McTominay too. He's not really a six. He's more of a box to box. I would say.
I
Anyway.
think we've only really got Casemiro, and he's not really reliable. Arsenal, Owen got Calafiori over the line, and then it seemed like Merino was a matter of days away last week. But all talk
That's
of that seems to have gone quiet now. Again, Arsenal are still saying that they're feeling this will get done. But I wonder, will the
that's Sociedad
Zubimendi
as well, isn't it?
exactly? I wonder, will the Zubimendi have anything to do with this? Because Zubimendi and Merino were partners last year on midfield. And you would imagine if they lose Zubimendi and they can't do anything about it if Zubimendi wants to go and that release clause is activated,
Yep.
Marino, they've agreed a deal of 30 million or so for Arsenal, but they could easily reverse that. They're not under any obligation. They let him go via release clause. But is that, do you think that'd be a worry for Arsenal that we're hearing the Zubimendi talk now and that you would imagine so she
Oh, I
don't
would.
want to lose both of them?
I would enjoy that so much if we got Zubimendi and they couldn't get Marino. It would, but
It's quite strange though because Arsenal's preference was Zubimendi,
yeah,
and they seem to have gone away from that. They go for Merino, and Merino's a lot older, 28. It's his lower fee, so you feel it's almost like a
maybe
Jorginho signing, like a stopgap signing.
maybe it's because Marino's played in the Premier League before.
Mm,
I know he didn't pull up any trees at Newcastle, but he
exactly.
was uh, he was there before. But it's a weird one. You're saying Zubimendi was their top target, but he told them that he didn't want to join them. So maybe they had to move on to Marino, and
And I
obviously
find that
Arsenal were
extremely strange because of the Arteta Spanish connection.
yeah.
Arsenal are knocking on the door in the Premier League. So, and I don't mean to be what's the word? I don't want to be disrespectful to Liverpool fans, but I'm struggling to see what Zubimendi can get at Liverpool that he can't get at Arsenal.
No,
And barring the fact that you're going to be in London as well, it's notoriously players like they live in London, and the fact that you
probably
feel Arsenal are probably further ahead in their development now with a new
I
manager
would.
at Liverpool.
No, I
Arsenal are
agree with
primed
you.
and ready, so it's a maybe it is the competition for places, but if he backs
Probably.
himself to be that good, I wouldn't see why that's such a far reach that he couldn't play in this Arsenal team.
No, well, I'm not going to sit here and cry. Like if Arsenal don't get him, I'm not. I'm not going to say like I'm happy that he's not going. But no, it is strange. Like I do. You're not being disrespectful there. I do agree that Arsenal are further on in their development, especially now. Like if we still had Klopp, I would have said, man, we're still pretty similar. But
Yeah.
because we have a new manager, a new structure above us, uh, we are an anomaly now. But Arsenal are
Maybe
further
maybe
ahead. I think.
Richard Hughes has something on his agent and he has to come. I don't know.
Apparently, I was reading that today. Apparently, Richard Hughes wanted him at Bournemouth as well at some point. So he seems to be keen, and we'll see what happens there. But the
I have to
Marino
say,
one,
I think there's a long way to go in the Zubimendi thing. I just think that maybe the news has come out earlier than Liverpool wanted. Who knows? I could be wrong. This could be done come the weekend, but I have a feeling this could rumble. And
no,
I'll be interested to know that it's in the news how many other clubs will Real Madrid come in and think, well, we could lose him. Maybe we might have to go and get him. It'll be interesting to see
I
that it's in
think
the news.
I think that's why Liverpool wanted it out there and wanted to get it done fast before any other clubs come in. I
Yeah.
think Liverpool wanted signed off before, but speaking of Marino, like I still think this will get done. I think if he wants to go to Arsenal, I don't think so. That'll stand in his way. But as you said there, if they lose Zubimendi, they're not going to want to lose Merino because then they'll have to replace two players. So it'll be interesting what happens there for Arsenal. But I think Arsenal, if they can't get this done, I think they'll move on to someone else.
Finally, let's look at West Ham because they've been pretty busy. And in the last few days, have completed the signings of Somerville from Leeds, and of course the very impressive German forward at Dortmund last year, Nicholas Fulkrug. Hey, a lot of Spurs fans have kind of looked at that and went, you know what, two great signings. I mean, I'm not sure how you look at it, but for West Ham, I think both of those could be very good players for them.
Oh, especially
and they weren't huge fees. They got the two of them for around 50 million combined.
Especially Fulkrug. I think that's I know he's old. I love how
well, he's only a few years older than me, but I know what you mean in terms of football terms.
In terms of football terms, he's an old boy. But I think it's a very astute piece of business from West Ham and Somerville. Again, he was heavily linked with the likes of Chelsea and Liverpool, but I think this is his level. I think West Ham's his level, and West Ham have also brought in Max Kilman from Wolves early on the window, which I think is a good piece of business. They've signed another winger, a young boy from Brazil, Guilherme.
Well, Lopetegui threw his toys out of the pram at Wolves because there's no money to spend. He can't have that argument here. They're backing him.
No, and I think then that they'll get the Wan-Bissaka deal over the line too.
I don't want you to give away your predictions for the end of the show, but do you think they could be a surprise West Ham this year? You know, could they be a team that sort of mixed teams at the top of the league? I don't mean the very top, but sort of the teams fighting for the Europa League spots nervous?
No, they're always like people think West Ham had a shocker of a season last year. They finished 9th. Like they didn't finish like 13th, 14th. Like
I'm sure they'll be a lot better to watch under Lopetegui.
Nah, it won't be boring Moyes ball, but they will be up there. But I don't know if I'll do a Aston Villa and predict them to finish in the top 4 this year.
Owen, over and out for the teams in the US, Asia, across the world. Pre-season tours have climaxed, and it's very much now the build-up. Whether you're in the Community Shield this weekend or you're in your final pre-season game. A lot of those games, a lot of teams, including Spurs and Liverpool, have home games. Spurs taking on Bayern Munich. Harry Kane returns to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Part of the agreement for him to go last year. Spurs take all the profit, of course. Daniel Levy knows how to organise a deal or two. If you're a few million short, he'll still get it off you. Liverpool, of course, welcomes Sevilla. Man United take on Man City in the Community Shield and repeated the FA Cup final last year. So plenty of football for fans to enjoy this weekend before the madness all kicks off the following weekend. And let's look at some of those tours. It was deemed the rivals in red, the Liverpool, United and Arsenal trilogy, and Liverpool reigned supreme. They beat both their oppositions, beat Arsenal 2-1 and took United to the sword, as you said, in a 3-0 victory. I mean, a lot of Liverpool accounts I've seen on Twitter are saying this new style of play is even better than Klopp's, and you know it's brilliant to watch, and it's going to get the best out of the likes of Jones and Elliott, who maybe weren't maybe equipped for Klopp's system. How are you feeling ahead of the season? Because very impressive against the two main rivals in that pre-season tour.
Oh, they were. I would. You can't read too much on the pre-season. I think you can go both ways. But you can say, it's only pre-season, and then you can go, oh my God, we had such a great pre-season. So you have to find like a middle ground. I do agree with some Liverpool fans that we will get. I think I think Szoboszlai, if he can stay fit, I think he's going to have a great season under Slot. I think what I was going to say, someone that you mentioned there now. I think Jones could be Jones.
Jones and Elliott was very impressive for that season.
So it's going to be very interesting what he does with the number 9 situation, because obviously we have Jota, we have Gakpo, and
it was very interesting that the reports out of Liverpool was that Nunez is seen as a striker, not a winner. So that tells you that if he's going to play through the middle, and he's not going to be. Whereas last year he was getting shoehorned on the left hand side. He's either going to play up front or he's going to be on the bench. That seems to be what Slot sees it as.
No, this is up for Nunez now. I think if he has a similar season to his first two, I think in next summer, I think he'll have to get moved on. For even if we take a loss on him, like we have to move him on if he doesn't have a good season. But then again, not moving too much into the future next summer as well. We're going to have to replace Salah because he's not going to be there.
And there's an argument that Nunez was perfect for Klopp's system, but they may not suit this new system because if there is going to be more of the possession, more of the football, Nunez's strengths are sort of running in behind and pressing from the front, and Slots is all going about technical, keeping the ball. And if he's getting flagged offside constantly, I'm not sure if Slot will be as forgiving as Klopp was, because apparently Klopp was his biggest supporter at Liverpool, and he was the main reason that he was signed.
Yeah. I think I was reading that do you mind earlier on in just before the summer started, they was like we move away and stuff. Apparently the reports were that Edwards and Ward at the time wanted Nkunku, and Klopp pushed hard for Nunez. So we'll see what happens.
Let's talk about Nkunku's team Chelsea, because it was a bit of a disastrous pre-season for them, beaten 3 times, beaten heavily by Celtic, found themselves 4-0 down against Man City before they really, and they didn't have a strong team out there. Once they took off their 2 or 3 big hitters that were playing, they managed to claw back to 4-2, and they were beaten by Real Madrid last night 2-1. And I've seen bits and pieces of these games, and they were really, really struggling, especially in the openings of the game. Just seemed to be struggling to get the grips with the system. There was gaps everywhere. They were trying to play a high line with no pressure on the ball. How worrying is it the not so much the results, but the way that they were losing, and then they were finding themselves 2-0 down after 5 minutes, 4-0 down after 50 or 60 minutes in a game. Realistically, you don't see heavy beatings in pre-season that often, and definitely not to this frequency, conceding this amount of goals. Is that a worry for Chelsea fans moving into this season, that it could be even worse than it was last season?
I think it feels like Groundhog Day with Chelsea, doesn't it? It generally feels like we're coming on at the start of every season going, God, Chelsea are on a mess and their transfer business is all over the show. But I think Maresca came out after the game yesterday and said he doesn't want them to play a high line. He wants them to drop back. He wants them to drop back 5 or 10 meters. So he's obviously not happy with the way they're defending. And I think there was a quote from one of the Chelsea journalists that he wants them to get Pochettino's style out of their head because he's not there anymore. And he's the man now that he wants them to listen to. But if I was a Chelsea fan, I would be worried about the performances in this preseason because they don't have the easiest of starts.
Owen, Man United, who you got a good look at last week against Liverpool, seems to be the same problems there as well. Players getting injured in pre-season and conceding a lot of chances and open play. Has anything changed there at Man United this summer? Because I'm already seeing some United fans are saying Ten Hag's going to be in huge trouble if this doesn't get off to a good start.
I mean, he's always going to be under pressure because, as I said in a previous couple of podcasts I've been on, if he hadn't won that FA Cup, he was a goner. Like, the FA Cup saved him. So, as we've said previous, if just say we're sitting here and say next Friday night, and they've say drawn or lost to Fulham, just starts all over again. But I think they're looking to get the Lit deal over the line, the Majorari deal over the line, so it'll be interesting.
I think they desperately need players before this first game because they're really short at the back. Again, midfield's not been sorted out. I think I know the window's open to the end of the month. I think certain teams can manage to the end of the month. I think United really need to get players on before next Friday's game because Fulham have recruited well. And interestingly, I know we're going to do our predictions in a few minutes time, but I've seen a lot of the pundits are saying Fulham could be in for a good season because of the players they brought on. So Fulham will look at United as a big scalp, as we said last week, and they'll go there full of confidence.
They will, but people are saying Fulham. But my big thing for Fulham is they have to get a Polina replacement. If they don't get a Polina replacement, I think it could be they're not going to be anywhere near like relegation. But I think Polina replacement is vital for them. But for United, I do agree they need to by next Friday. I think they need to have at least 2 names on because you're looking at the centre backs of Martinez, who's decent but is also injury prone. Maguire, and then Johnny Evans, who's about 95. So you wouldn't trust them 3 to get you off their hot start.
Well, I think Martinez is a good player, but again, he wouldn't shock you if he got injured before the end of the next week or got injured in the first game. So be interesting to see.
It's all
Owen,
about like the community shield too. Like if they pick up a few injuries there, they could be in big ball.
yeah, and I think the last thing they need is a beating in that game as well, because I think that the heat will be on even before that first game. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes on Saturday. Of course, 3 o'clock kickoff on Saturday for anyone interested in that game. Owen, Spurs took a very young squad the pre-season, and I have to emphasize that it's probably going to be a very young squad this season because a lot of players have been moved on. Older players, Emerson, we're hearing will be gone in the next few days. The AC Milan
What is
medical.
wrong with AC Milan? Like have they not
I don't know
watched?
what they see, but
Have they not watched them play football?
I think it's a good deal for Spurs. 15 million, get him out. And they've got a replacement there in Spence that's ready to kick on. So a lot of players leaving. A lot of young players that look impressive on, but I remember once Alan Hansen said you won the home of kids and it backfired. But how many times have we seen young players perform for a full season? They tend to have dips in form. Spurs could be great one week, struggle the next week. And especially if you're going through a difficult phase, you need experience in the dressing room. They pull you through it. And you're looking around that dressing room at the minute, and there's not a lot of it. You're thinking someone like Madison's a senior player, so and he's only 25, 26. Son's the obvious one. But again, Son's not really a vocal leader, more of a leading by example. Romero's the other person with an armband, but we know what he's like. He's a hothead. So Spurs haven't got bags of experience. Do you think they need to get experience? I'm not saying sign out old boys, but someone like an Eze who's got international experience now.
Would be.
And then they've played, they Premier League experience, proven. That's the type of players that Spurs need to get over the line before next week.
I think it is good they have a young squad, but you need it mixed in with good experienced players who are ready for now. So I agree with you. Like I think Spurs need to get a few of them boys over the line, and obviously you would put Solanke into that category too of experience because he's been around the Premier League now. He knows where the back on net is. He scored 20 goals last season.
Yeah.
So I think for Spurs, if they can get players around that 25 to 27 mark, I think they're in good stead.
And of course, Man City and Arsenal had tricky enough starts the pre-season, but they found their feet. Man City struggled initially, losing to Celtic and Real Madrid. Celtic and there was somebody else they lost, like AC Milan. They then bounced back with a draw at Real Madrid and beat Chelsea. Arsenal drew with Bournemouth. Arsenal lost to they drew with Bournemouth. Then they lost to Liverpool, and then obviously backfired. They beat United and they beat Leverkusen tonight well, and they also played Lyon this weekend. So those two finding their feet just at the right time. Man City for the Community Shield this week. Of course, Arsenal still have one more game in pre-season, but they seem to be getting players back, looking a bit better. And of course, that result tonight is very impressive against Leverkusen, who were everyone's sort of second team last year. But I did predict Leverkusen they fall off this year, and I think that type of result already rings alarm bells. I know pre-season isn't everything, but to be getting beat they were 4 down after 50 or 60 minutes again. As you said, someone like Chelsea, that can be worrying. So when you go on with that kind of season, they replicate what they did last year, nearly impossible. So it'll be interesting to see how the German league goes. But Owen, did you expect Man City and Arsenal to sort of finish pre-season strong, and do you expect them to start the season strong?
I and no. I mean, I like Man City. Always seem to start the season pretty sluggish. So I don't, but I think they'll batter Chelsea. I honestly, I think Chelsea are on for a beating on the opening day. Like, I do think they'll batter Chelsea. But with these two, it's sort of hard to say anything about them, isn't it? Because they're going to be the two teams that everyone are.
Well, Arteta says the target at Arsenal is 114 points. So
that's not happening. That's not happening. Sorry, lads. Like that's not happening. Like you're gonna.
Let's get into it because we've about 15 minutes left of the podcast. These early season predictions have to emphasize early season because the transfer window is not even closed yet. Things could look very different.
Signing of the season's going to be Zubimendi if he comes in.
Well, I've actually left that out because again, I didn't feel we'll do that towards the end. Maybe I'm going to revisit this. We can redo these possibly during the international break in September when everyone's played 3 games and all the squads are settled at least January.
3 games on the new season, international break. That's what we all want, done.
chat. At least Ireland's playing England. That'll be something to look forward to. Owen, who do you think is going to be the champions of the Premier League this year?
Even if they ask. Bournemouth. No. Man City.
You think Man City will be 5 in a row?
Sadly.
Well, I mean, I have to be honest, and there's only two real teams I can see winning it now, and that is because I don't know anything about Slots Liverpool. I mean, all I can go off pre-season games, and I haven't even seen them play a full 90 minutes. I've seen bits and pieces. I've seen first halves here and there. I haven't seen a full 90 minutes, so impossible to judge them. So I can only go off last season, and that's Man City and Arsenal. And of course, I mean, I can't say Arsenal because I mean that would be impossible for me to say. Even though I think they're going to be a mere great chance, I'll just go with Man City as well. They pop them again.
Yeah.
Would you rather see Arsenal win it?
I'd rather see anyone win
it. Top four. In order.
In order, right? Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Spurs.
I agree. I think that's probably the order. I think I've actually seen a few predictions, and a lot of people are going in that order. And the only thing that being different is some have went for Arsenal first, Man City second. I think everyone believes Liverpool are favourites for third, and Spurs are the favourites for fourth. But
that'd get you Champions League, couldn't it?
Fifth could get you Champions League, but as we seen last year, you'd be a fool to rely on that. Who do you think Spurs' main rivals will be for fourth? In your head, if you think they're going to finish fourth, who do you think their main rivals will be?
United, Newcastle. I'll put Full on there, but Full is like low down. But I think United and Newcastle would be the main two.
So I'm assuming you think Ten Hag will be sacked and United will come back stronger.
No, I think Ten Hag will be gone at some point.
Right. Bottom three. Again, this is very tricky because you do not know. A lot of these teams in the bottom half of the league, they'll sign players you're not sure of, and you don't know what they're going to be like. So it's nearly impossible.
As I'm sitting here now, I'm going to say Ipswich. I'm going to say Leicester, and I'm going to say, there's a mad shout here, but I'm going to say Wolves.
Wolves?
Don't
be shocked if they go out. I think, do you know what? I think the first tier buying on, I think they're really going to struggle.
I don't fancy Wolves here. Like, their transfer business hasn't been great, so.
Well, if they lose Neto as well, that'll be
I've flipped between Wolves and Southampton, so I'm going to go Wolves.
I think Southampton are the best equipped team we've seen for a few years that have a chance of staying up. So I think Leicester just got so many problems and they're going to be deducted points.
What do you think of Everton this year?
I think they'll be okay because I think Sean Dyche knows how to navigate through, and I think they've made a couple of good signings there as well. I think they'll not be great to watch, but I think they'll be more than capable of getting results. So I think Leicester and Ipswich, I think that's your 19th and 20th, whatever way you want to put them.
Yeah.
I think 18th's very difficult to call. I'd be worried about Brentford because I think they struggled last year, and I'm not sure what's going to happen with Ivan Toney. And I think if they really lose him, it would be
where does he go though? Because he's not.
Where does he go? But I'm not sure how much has hurts on Brentford anymore. When he came back last year, he wasn't great at all.
Big Liverpool fans, so
that's it. If Tony comes back to the Tony of old, I think they'll be all right. But
I
think Brentford might be the team that could get dragged down there. Unless they do some business before the end of the window. I think Wolves, you say, now you're saying about the transfer business, that they overperformed last year what they've had. I just think Gary O'Neill's such a good coach that they'll be okay. Not to say Thomas Frank isn't, but I just think that could possibly run its course as well.
I think, as you said there, 18th and 19th, 19th and 20th are nailed on in my opinion. And then from 18th, they say 15th, we could have a few teams fighting for there.
Definitely. Who do you think will be the surprise package, the overperformers? And that can be anyone. That could be, like, say, a team you think could be struggling. They stay up. A team that you don't expect to be in the Champions League getting on there. Even a team they make European football that aren't expected to be seen Brighton a few years ago. We've seen Aston Villa, they've obviously getting the Champions League. We've seen Newcastle. So there's been a few of those surprise packages in the last few years.
You know what? I'm going to go West Ham.
West Ham.
Not in terms of getting Champions League, but I think they'll be fighting for Europe. I generally do. So I'm going to say West, and I'm impressed with some of their business. So I'm going to go West Ham.
See, I'm torn on a few because I think if Liverpool were to finish third again, I think that would be I wouldn't say an overperformance based on their players, but I think it would be a fantastic first season for Slot.
Well, Slot said in his interviews he wants to do better in third, so we'll see.
That's it, but I still think that will be a really, really good season.
No, I agree.
I think just because of the weakness of all our teams, it's maybe not looking like an overperformance if they were to get there. The United struggles, Chelsea struggles. I think, and the fact that teams are fancying Spurs League fourth, I think tells you everything about this league at the moment, that they see them as kind of the best of the rest, especially with all now in Champions League football. So again, I think for Spurs to finish top four would be a great season as well, especially these young players. So there's a few you could put under the bracket.
And Liverpool's going to win the Champions League anyway, so
I'm going to go for Crystal Palace because I think they had such a strong season last year.
Would you still say that if they lost? Well, they've already lost Elise, but if they lose Eze as well,
Eze, of course, but I think they'll replace them well. Palace are very good at recruiting players. He could go as well.
They signed that boy from Lazio, the Japanese boy Kamada.
You just look at what Glasner's done with some of the players like Mateta. You never really seen a player in him, and all of a sudden he's banging goals on for Palace. He's scoring at the Olympics. Adam Wharton, I think, is going to go from strength to strength under this manager. I think they will replace all these players as well. I mean, if they get, Elise's went for 50, if Eze goes for 60, and Gahey goes for 60, they're going to spend, and they'll be able to go. And the fact that Glasner's got a bit of a name about him, the way they finished the season last year, the style of play, I think they will bring players on.
And I think Wharton won't be there in the next 12 months. I don't think.
They're going to be big money for anyone that wants him. But I think Palace will come the tables getting to everyone's back in their predictions. We'll probably have Palace in near the relegation zone because of the players they've lost. So I think Palace will be comfortable mid-table. And I'm going to go for them as the overperformers. The only reason I think Liverpool and Spurs, if they finish third and fourth, they'd be great seasons. I think West Ham even making seventh at the minute. I don't think that's a huge overperformance. I think they will be in around that. I'm trying to think of a team that people are thinking might struggle.
Chelsea maybe, I don't know.
Overperform. I think they may be getting put on the arc at it. Well, I'm not even sure. We'll move on to that because with Chelsea finishing mid-table, would that even be, where are people realistically thinking they're going to finish anyway? Who's your other performers?
Oh, this is such a difficult one. You know what? I'm going to say Aston Villa. I predicted them last season. They finished top four. I'm going to predict them this season. They finish a bit lower just because I think we're going to see a Newcastle-esque season from them. I think they're going to struggle with the Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, some football. So
I'm going to go with the same. And there's two reasons for this, as you say. The first reason being the transition from playing in the Champions League to playing in playing week in week out and having to play your strongest team. Villa are going to be in one of the lower pots. They're going to have. I know they're going to play two teams in every pot, but I think they're going to be up against it. And I think losing Douglas Luiz is a massive loss. I think there's a massive reliance on Watkins last year to score goals. I'm not sure if that's sustainable. Very good player, but a lot of pressure on him if he gets an injury. I'm not sure they've got the firepower there.
I agree.
And there's another reason is Emery. I think very good manager, but I think a very short spell as well. I'm not sure he can sustain his style of play for a number of years. And I think the more games he plays, the difficult it'll be. And I think the biggest thing that's going to hurt Villa this year is the new format. I think Villa, if they had a poor first half, Emery's your man in Europa League. I think he could have took him far in it. I think they could have had a pass, but I think the fact that they could be out of the Champions League early, it could be a difficult season for them.
Because you can't drop down this anymore.
I think it could be a difficult season for Villa.
I agree.
First manager sacked. And sorry, just to go back on this. The reason I haven't said Chelsea or Man United is because I think Chelsea, I think, are going to be up against it from the get go, and I think a lot of people are expecting that. And I just think, as what Owen says, United, nothing's going to change too much. And I think again, it'll be very much, if somebody says to me, looks on their crystal ball and say United finish 7 for 8 again, I wouldn't be surprised. So again, I
No,
can't
you're
really
right.
put them on as an underperformer.
I agree. I wouldn't be surprised if United finished seventh or eighth. So, first manager sacked. I'm actually gonna go for Enzo Maresca.
I agree as well.
I just,
Well, make us
I
interested.
just,
How many games do you think he'll last? Premier League games?
uh, what up to Christmas? So that's what 15, 16.
I'm going to say earlier. I think he's going to last no more than 10 games.
Oh,
I think come the third international break, he'll be out the door. I think that's about 11 games on. Sorry, I'll go 11 games in. I think
nah.
the 12th game is after. Last year it was we played 12 games before the three. This year it's slightly different. We're only playing 3 in the first cycle, so we've got 3, 4, 4. I think by the end of that, by the time we come, the football starting back in November, right through to March again. I think he will be no longer the manager.
I just think I'm not just going by preseason. I'm just going by previous things at Chelsea. I think it's going to be a disaster. I don't think it's going to go well, and
And
I
you know,
wouldn't be
I don't know how much
surprised.
you can blame. I don't know how much you can blame him, but
Like if I
apparently last year at Leicester, he had this very one-dimensional style of play too. And once it started going wrong, I mean, Leicester nearly blew the league. They were that far clear. I
yeah,
mean, if things work them out early on, and it looks from pre-season that they've been found already, it could be a seriously difficult. And I just think they're weaker. I think the players they've lost haven't been replaced.
I think I don't know if you agree, but as I said, I think I think that's a crazy decision in terms of like he wants to be at Chelsea.
They've sold Gallagher and replaced him with Dewsbury Hall for the same money. I just don't get that at all.
No, I think Drewsbury Hall's a significantly worse player than Conor Gallagher. I think Drewsbury Hall, not to be harsh, but I think he's a championship standard footballer. I don't think.
And I think Thiago Silva's a huge loss for his
Yeah,
experience.
and you've seen like obviously I don't watch a lot of the Brazilian league, but he's went on to Fluminense. They were in a relegation battle, and they've won every game I think since he's come on. So it shows you what a bit of experience can do. But I think. I'm not going to be surprised if Enzo Maresca's the first day had the chopping block.
But a minute or so, minute and a half left before they are. So, I mean, give us your thoughts now as the Premier League comes to the start. I mean, what are you most excited they see?
Just from a Liverpool point of view, just to see how we adapt in the early weeks of the season, the slot style, and I think bar the Man United game, I think we have a pretty decent start. So we could get off the flyer if all things go well. And
I
I'm
think it's
also
really important for a new manager to get off to a good start too. You seen that last year with Spurs and Ange, the one that did go wrong. The fans had seen enough to back him.
yeah. I so you want that again. You don't want you don't want Liverpool to say I don't know lose the footage in the end, uh, be a bit dodgy then. But I'm also looking forward to seeing how Spurs get on as well. Since Ange is coming, they've been an exciting team to watch. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that
I think
adapts over the season.
there'll be everybody's choice for a game at the weekend. Besides their own team, I think everybody will be looking to watch them games because you know what it's going to be like. The man for man style of play. You know what's going to be all out the one, no matter who they're up against. We seen that last year at Man City when they went to Man City away from home, decimated squad, and they had a midfield of Oliver Skip, Giovanni Lo Celso, and they had Emerson Royale and Ben Davis playing centre back. He didn't hold back. He went for the juggler, and in the end, they
Yeah.
were pushing to get a winner at the end. And I suppose that summed up Spurs' season. But Owen, brilliant to have you on as
No
always.
bother.
We'll be back next week. We're going to give you your 1-20 on the Premier League table. I'm sure we'll have more transfer business to talk about, and we will start to build up to that first weekend preview and give our predictions for the first weekend's games. Always a tricky one. You don't know who's going to be, firing all cylinders. But of
Yeah.
course, that's all part of the fun. Oh, and top man as always, and I'll see you very shortly.
Cheers, lad.
And if you're new around here, of course, make sure to like and subscribe for more content.